The Keepers is a true crime series on Netflix that delves into the unsolved murder of Sister Kathy Sesnick, a beloved 26-year-old nun and high school teacher in Baltimore. The first episode introduces the case, emphasizing the dedicated efforts of former students such as Gemma Hoskins and Abby Schaub, who tirelessly seek to uncover the truth nearly 5 decades late. The series explores Sister Kathy's last known moments on November 7, 1969, when she left work to buy an engagement gift but never returned. Eyewitnesses saw her grocery shopping, and accounts differ on whether she made it back to her apartment. The plot thickens with the mysterious circumstances surrounding Sister Kathy's car, which was found parked on the street with its keys in the inn. The case takes a darker turn as another young woman, Joyce Malecki, goes missing 3 days later and is later found dead. Gemma and Abby, along with Joyce's brothers, attempt to draw connections between the two cases. The series suggests that the police and FBI may have more information about the deaths, but that corruption and strict hierarchies in Baltimore hinder the release of crucial details. The narrative unfolds through a chorus of voices, including journalist Tom Nugent, former students, and law enforcement officials, shedding light on the complexities of the investigation and the lingering questions surrounding Sister Kathy's murder and the subsequent cover-up. Viewers are warned about the disturbing content of the series as it navigates through the unsettling events of the past. The second episode of the true crime series reveals the identity of Jane Doe as Jean Hargadon Wenner, who grew up in a devout Baltimore Catholic family. The narrative paints a stark contrast to the initially portrayed perfect image of Archbishop Keough High School, describing the school's dark underbelly through Jean's disturbing experiences. As a freshman at Keough, Jean confided in Father Magnus about her uncle's past abuse during confession. Instead of providing support, Magnus, along with another priest, Father Maskell, sexually abused her. These therapy sessions included verbal and sexual abuse, with the priests using religious terminology to justify their actions. The abuse escalated, and Maskell, who held significant influence at the school, would sometimes bring others to join in the abuse. Maskell's troubled childhood is explored, revealing disturbing incidents such as his mother grooming him to be a priest and his penchant for carrying a handgun as a priest. The series exposes Maskell's widespread abuse of other students, creating an atmosphere of fear and silence. Despite being the school counselor with a master's degree in school psychology, Maskell was the perpetrator, exploiting his position of trust. Several students, including Lillian Hughes, were unknowingly manipulated by Maskell, who drugged them while maintaining control over sensitive records. Maskell's connections with law enforcement, including his role as the chaplain for the Maryland State Police, further complicated the situation. Jean finally confided in Sister Kathy, who promised to address the issue. However, both Sister Kathy and Sister Russell left Keough, living outside the convent and teaching in a public school. Jerry Koob, a former priest and close friend of Sister Kathy, reveals their growing closeness and Kathy's intention to discuss a serious matter with him before her death. The narrative fast-forwards to November 1969, 2 days before Kathy's disappearance, when an abused student and her boyfriend encountered Maskell and Magnus at the sisters' apartment. Maskell, furious, allegedly threatened the couple to keep silent. Returning to Keough, Jean describes Maskell taking her to the woods, where they discovered Kathy's body. Maskell chillingly blamed Jean's horrifying lair to the mysterious circumstances surrounding Sister Kathy's murder, unveiling a web of abuse and corruption within the Catholic community in Baltimore. In the third episode of The Keepers, the aftermath of Jean Hargadon Wenner's revelations unfolds. The narrative delves into Jean's background and the immense familial support she receives. A mysterious element is introduced with the disclosure of Deep Throat, a secretive Baltimore detective who claims knowledge about secret file boxes buried by Father Maskell in a cemetery grave. The episode explores the impact of trauma on memory, as Jean recalls unlocking repressed memories of abuse in 1990. Wenner's emotional description of this process vividly depicts the struggle of confronting the past. The church's attempts to discredit her as an unreliable witness are hinted at, setting the stage for future revelation. Wenner's expression of overwhelming guilt during a family meeting in the early 1990s adds a layer of complexity. While she exclaims, "I loved her, and I killed her," it is clarified that Wenner does not claim to have physically killed Sister Kathy, but feels responsible for triggering events leading to her death. The narrative takes a turn similar to Spotlight, highlighting the flood of letters received by Wenner's lawyer from other victims at Archbishop Keough High School. Inspired by the Boston Globe church abuse articles, victims begin sharing their stories. Teresa Lancaster's horrifying experience of rape on Halloween night in 1970 adds a chilling dimension to the unfolding narrative. Sister Marilita Freya emerges as a notable figure, becoming the principal of Archbishop Keogh in 1975. Taking swift action on complaints from parents, she removes Father Maskell from the school. While the episode acknowledges that Sister Marilita could have involved law enforcement, her prompt response is commendable. The episode further explores an interview Father Maskell gave to the Baltimore Sun in August 1994. Maskell's defensive denials in the face of new allegations and the church's decision to send him to rehab are scrutinized. Dismissive attitude towards victims raises questions about the broader societal response to the allegation. In the first 3 hours of The Keepers, the narrative has been marked by a pervasive sense of psychological horror, reminiscent of dark and unsettling movies. The horrifying abuse suffered by female students at Archbishop Keogh High School forms a disturbing backdrop to the unsolved murders of Kathy Sesnick and Joyce Malek. Episode 4 introduces new characters, adding to the ominous atmosphere. Brother Bob's identity, a significant point of interest, will likely be explored in later episodes. However, the episode takes an unsettling turn as it introduces several new suspicious characters. Notably, Dr. Christian Richter, a gynecologist implicated in Jane Doe and Jane Roe's unsuccessful lawsuit, and Paul McHugh, a psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins Hospital known for his anti-LGBT views supporting the Catholic Church in sex abuse cases. McHugh's role in dismissing the 1994 lawsuit and his controversial beliefs about the link between homosexuality and child sex abuse raised troubling questions. Lee Richmond, a Johns Hopkins professor and friend of Father Maskell, mentions an incident in 1990 where Maskell was burying old office files in a cemetery. The anonymous Baltimore detective, referred to as Deep Throat, reveals the presence of nude photographs of girls among these files. Deep Throat claims there was enough evidence to arrest Maskell on the spot, but interference from the church prevented. Sharon A.H. May, who worked for the state's attorney's office, is introduced in a challenging interview. May was present at Holy Cross Cemetery on the day the files were exhumed but claims to have found nothing. The episode presents her guarded responses, leaving viewers to question whether she was part of a conspiracy to protect Maskell from the law. A poignant moment in the episode focuses on Teresa Lancaster, known as Jane Roe, who earned her law degree at age 49. The show draws a parallel with the Freddie Gray case, illustrating the enduring impact of injustice and pain from decades ago to the present. This ambitious leap adds depth to The Keepers, prompting reflection on the long-reaching consequences of the events being investigated. In The Keepers, the challenge of pursuing justice for Sister Kathy Sesnick's murder is complicated by the passage of time and the deaths of key individuals, including Father Joseph Maskell. As Abby and Gemma seek answers, an anonymous decline yields two similar stories implicating family members in Kathy's death. Debbie Young's uncle, Edgar Davidson, emerges as a suspicious figure with a bloody shirt and a questionable alibi on the night of Kathy's disappearance. His unsettling behavior, such as smirking about her likely fate and acquiring new tires, raises suspicions. Sharon Schmidt shares a parallel story involving her father, who confessed to involvement in Kathy's death during an arguing. Kathy's body was found near the Schmidt family business, suggesting specific knowledge of the area. Despite Maskell's death, the focus shifts to uncovering accomplices. Billy Schmidt, now deceased, faced internal torment and eventual suicide, potentially linked to Kathy's murder. Brian, Sharon's brother, had repressed memories hinting at the disposal of Kathy's body. The tool of unspoken trauma becomes evident as Brian's heart attack and Mike Wenner's death from esophageal cancer are attributed to the burden of secrecy. The episode explores the profound impact of unresolved questions on individuals, culminating in emotional moments of reflection. Jean Wenner shares her late husband Mike's struggle with suppressed anger, resulting in his tragic death. Gemma's conversation with Kathy's sister, Marilyn, and the resemblance of Marilyn's voice to Kathy's evoke powerful emotions, reinforcing the idea that the past continues to exert its influence. Despite the emotional journeys, the episode concludes with leads for further investigation. Marilyn's potential insights into the necklace and a living suspect, Edgar Davidson, adding layers to the complex murder mystery. In Episode 6 of The Keepers, the investigation intensifies with an interview of a potential living suspect, Edgar Davidson, in Sister Kathy Sesnick's murder. Edgar denies involvement, claiming he fabricated incriminating statements to mislead his wife. The search shifts to individuals close to Kathy, including Jerry Coop, a former priest with a shaky alibi, raising skepticism about his innocence. Investigative reporter Tom Nugent questions Coob's credibility, highlighting inconsistencies in his narrative. Jerry Coob's colorful but dubious story about a detective showing Caffey's body parts during interrogation adds complexity. The team attempts to validate Coob's account by reaching out to his alibi, brother Pete McKeown, whose aged memory provides no new insights. The challenges of the investigation become apparent as key figures, like Sister Russell, carry untold secrets to their graves. The episode exposes the institutional repression within the Catholic Church, with claims of Maskell's arrest and protection from both church and state. Former D.A. Sharon May's dismissive response to a list of abusive priests raises questions about the systemic protection of perpetrators. The narrative interweaves investigative details with glimpses of resilience and healing among survivors. Caffey's sister, Marilyn, finds solace and connection through Abby and Gemma's quest, uncovering the intended necklace and its significance. Jean, an abuse survivor, experiences healing and solidarity as the movement brings together KIO survivors. The episode concludes with validation for Jean's claims, challenging the police's skepticism about Maskell showing her Caffey's maggot-covered corpse. The autopsy report, obtained by Gemma, provides evidence supporting Jean's assertions, reinforcing the credibility of her testimony. In a final episode of The Keepers, Charles Franz, another victim of Maskell's abuse, recounts horrifying experiences, including physical and sexual abuse, introduced alcohol and drugs by Maskell, and reveals that the abuse occurred in 1967, 2 years before Caffey Sesnick's death. Charles believes that if the Catholic Church had addressed the issue properly in '67, Caffey's murder might not have happened. The episode delves into the Catholic Church's role, ongoing complicity in repressing victims of clergy abuse, and government cooperation in protecting it. Edgar Davidson denies involvement in the Sesnick case, but there are leads to explore, including the possibility of DNA evidence from a cigarette found at the crime scene. The Malecki family, connected to Joyce Malecki's murder, feels abandoned by authorities, highlighting the challenges faced by survivors seeking justice. Efforts to extend the statute of limitations for sex crimes face resistance, with survivors like C.E. Wilson sharing their experiences. The Catholic Church, represented by lawyer Kevin Murphy, opposes such efforts, revealing the Church's influence in thwarting justice. Wilson's persistence leads to the eventual success of a bill extending the statute of limitation. The show emphasizes the need for separation between church and state, arguing that government intervention is necessary when the church victimizes individuals. The Church's failure to provide justice is exposed when Charles Franz reveals that his mother complained to the Archdiocese about Maskell in 1967, contradicting the Church's previous claims. As both church and state fail to deliver justice, the responsibility falls on the people. The grassroots movement led by Abby and Gemma connects survivors and exposes institutional failures. Despite Caffey's murder remaining unsolved, the search for truth provides survivors with comfort, peace, and connection. The closure of Archbishop Keogh prompts the erection of a memorial plaque in honor of Caffey Sesnick, symbolizing her support for survivors in life and bringing them together even in death. My review: The Keepers is a deliberately paced and emotionally intense documentary series that mirrors the slow and painful process of survivors and investigators grappling with the details surrounding the tragic murder of Sister Caffey Sesnick. The intentional unfolding of the narrative reflects the profound impact of trauma and the arduous journey survivors face in confronting their past. The series sheds light on the lingering agony experienced by survivors as they seek justice and answers, especially in the face of a legal system that often fails to take action. The layers of heartache and the aftermath of abuse are meticulously explored, illustrating how it permeates both individual lives and society at large. The focus on real people, courageous sleuths, survivors, and their loved ones ensures a respectful and empathetic portrayal of their collective journey to confront fears and pain. The documentary masterfully captures the far-reaching effects of sexual trauma, demonstrating its impact not only on survivors, but also on the interconnected stories of how the Church's actions reverberate across generations. As a survivor, the series provides a sense of empowerment and validation, offering a relatable portrayal of the numbness and anger that often accompany the acknowledgment of abuse and the individuals responsible. Despite the unresolved nature of the case, The Keepers normalizes the complex emotions tied to trauma and stands as a commendable production that honors the resilience of those involved. Kudos to the producers for their sensitive and impactful storytelling.